Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your hosts on this journey.
Hello, SEL and EDU family. It is Krista and Craig, and we are back with another amazing episode of SEL and EDU. My friend Craig, how are you today?
I am doing, I'm doing. I am deeply processing so many things. We're heading into spring. I'm thinking about having this winter summer body, just feeling luscious and cornbread fed and thinking about gardening, strangely enough, actually thinking about gardening. My father and I uh built a garden in my backyard, and I'm a new homeowner, of 2 years. But I'm thinking about the fact that when my father was here from New Orleans and he came up for my wedding, that he built a little garden. And I'm already thinking about, well, what are we going to grow this time? And so I'm pretty excited about that.
Love that because it reminds me of something I wanted to share with you today. And like you're talking about growing and nourishing plants, and I think about what that means for people. And today
Yes.
I had a chance to reconnect with a principal from 15 years ago who is now a superintendent. And we're talking about a partnership for his district. And he was one of those people that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so I would have been classroom teacher Krista teaching high school social studies and loving it. Please know I didn't leave the classroom because I was unhappy. He's like, hey, there's this opportunity. Do you want to apply for it? And I'm like, what? I don't think I'm the right person. And he's like, no, I think you might be. But he said a message to me and he's like, I'm really proud of you and all that you're doing and all you've, and I'm like, you know what though? I wouldn't have even thought that these things were possible if not for you and seeing something in me that I didn't even know was in myself. And I think that's similar to planting, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. There's something, and I think that there's something about even the delay, because sometimes people think, oh, I must be this in this season. And sometimes it requires multiple seasons in order for the real blossoms to show up. It doesn't mean that the seed was not of good and won't be plentiful. Doesn't mean that the soil in its, by itself is actually, dead or barren. It just needs the right conditions in order for all of the beauty and all of the fruits of said labor to actually manifest. And so I as you're talking about that, I'm thinking, hey, it took seasons for you to actualize into who you are, and look at who you are. What a gift.
You. I was just texting with my sister this morning as I was getting ready for the drive to come up here, and we were both just lamenting about the journeys. And I'm like, proud of who I am and where I've grown. And you and I've had a relationship for 12 years, and we've gotten to see each other's journeys, and I think that's really special. And I
Absolutely.
know that you have a special relationship with our guest as well,
I
and
do.
getting to see journeys come to fruition. So
Yes. So I am deeply excited and most honored that she even has the time, because she's global, a global champion for so many of our young people, for so many of the educators and caregivers who are leaning into the lives of so many of our young folks. And Rose Pavlov is the founder and CEO of Ivy Child International, which is a nonprofit that develops and facilitates mindfulness based health education programs for children and communities across the globe. She's a child specialist and educator. Her interests range widely, and we might talk about a little bit of applied positive psychology and mindfulness-based learning, especially for youth across the entire globe who are facing so much these days. Rose, has done some tremendous work with UNICEF and World Vision. Worcester, yes, I said Worcester. Business Journal also honored Rose as one of the 40 under 40 rising stars in Central Mass. And there's so much more. Rose is a dear friend of mine. I feel like I'm a better human being just because I'm in proximity to her, and we are so excited to welcome her to SEL and EDU, the podcast. Hey, Rose, how's your heart? How are you today?
Hey, Craig. Hey, Krista. It is such a joy to be with you all. Thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here and spend some time together.
Yes, I was just looking at the Ivy Child website for a moment. And one of the things that delights me is that some of my young people from when I was a principal in South Boston are still on the site. And I have seen some of them since then who have grown tremendously, are still incorporating mindfulness into their day-to-day lives. Some of them are now teenagers, which is just means I'm getting older, but I still feel like I'm a fine wine. Yes, I do. So I'm just curious for you in today's times and all the wonderful work that you continue to do and champion on behalf of our children and the educators and so many folks in care communities. What are you excited about in 2024 in regards to the work that you're leading or championing or even creating?
Thank you so much. I mean, as I was reflecting on, your discussion just moments ago about, planting seeds and sometimes not seeing that manifest or grow overnight, but really over many seasons. And I think that is one of the great joys that I am bearing witness to right now. Some of our early days of, offering mindfulness and well-being practices to urban schools and communities. Our kids are now, as you just shared, have grown, have often, become first generation college students and, first to graduate college in their own family, have now become parents themselves. So to just witness that evolution, that journey towards healing, towards well-being, towards what creating a life and path that is meaningful to them, that is really what I find to be most exciting, is to continue to learn, to continue to listen, and to continue to be part of these amazing lives that are in and of itself stories of incredible resilience and courage and trust, care, and community.
Mhm.
I'm curious, when I think about social emotional learning, people's entry points to that. And for me, it's often around social awareness, being a social studies teacher and learning US history and learning about world history and how it's influenced people. And then I meet others like yourself who enter into it, I think, from a self awareness perspective. And I'm always curious about your own personal journey that led you to meditation, that led you to creating Ivy Child International and to the work that you do. And I have a bad habit of stacking questions. So I'm going to pull this back a moment and say, could we also define for our listeners, because I don't want to make any assumptions, but what BIPOC means and stands for, just so that everybody understands, because I think it's very significant what we're talking about here when you talk about there being an all BIPOC board. And I want people to understand the power that comes with that. So I know I just stacked questions on you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share. So I am the daughter of immigrants from Kerala, India. My family left India and first immigrated from India to Africa, where my father was a professor in Ethiopia. And then from there, they immigrated to the United States for my father to pursue his third graduate degree. I come from a long lineage of amazing educators. And, education for us is such a both gift and joy. And so I was raised, though in the US, with a deep appreciation for collective care and culture. And so meditation and mindfulness was really this gift I was given within my mother's womb. It really began within my mother's womb, that then, was this deep sacred ritual that was part of my life from the time I could remember. And, and there was a lot of value in I would say, the micro moments or the informal moments in our day, whether it be when you woke up, when we woke up together, or the moments before we shared a meal, the moments that we would get into the car and travel together. These were all moments where we could, practice and engage together with these really sacred rituals around mindfulness and meditation practice. It wasn't until much later, where I learned the term mindfulness. It was at Harvard University where I was doing graduate work and was introduced to Intro to Positive Psychology by Tal Ben-Shahar. And he is really, his class was the first time I heard the word mindfulness. And as he started to explain, the deep care and contemplation and the breathing, and so as I reflected, I said, there are communities across the globe that have been practicing mindfulness for generations, right? And through sacred ancestral practice, through just a way of being. And so I felt, such a sense of pride and joy to really honor and acknowledge the gift that my parents have given us, the gift that their ancestors have given them through these very simple and sacred practices. And I'll answer the second portion of your question around the BIPOC piece. And so we're really, really grateful and proud to be a reflection of the communities that we serve. And so our team and our organization is comprised of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And so we offer our programming in a multilingual capacity. We offer our, offerings in a multicultural capacity, because we recognize that there is no one size fits all, and we are deep learners, in this process and these practices as well.
I was I had to go race and find my notebook because I wanted to make sure that I honored something you said to me. You said a number of things, um, but one of the things that you shared is we make our own communities more vulnerable by thinking it's their problem and not ours. And the times that we're facing right now require a radical activism, maybe a sacred activism, but it starts with ourselves and our own personal practices. And when I think about how impactful it was when I met you in a coffee shop in Roxbury, historically mostly Black and Brown community. I wish folks could actually just be in presence with you right now as we're talking. But I remember like feeling a sense of electricity about like I really would love to have Rose and her squad, her Avenger team, come and really spend time in my school community, because I served as a principal of a K-5 school that people had already counted out, and I think that the district and the state were planning to close the community, close the school. And here, this is a 200 plus culturally and linguistically prosperous young people who have their own ideas and their own genius and brilliance, and family members and caregivers who care about them deeply. But they carry such heavy loads of trauma. And we had a lot of conversations around immigration, because we were talking about ICE and kids being pulled from their homes or pulled from buses, and not knowing if they got home that the person they cared about was going to be there, and knowing how important it was for me not only to invest in like restorative practices, but also knowing that mindfulness is a pathway, it's a tool, it's a framework, it's a transformation for young people who feel like the world does so many things that they don't have a sense of control, and their parents may also carry that same sentiment. But what you did with not only your own example, but also the you gave us Mr. J, Mr. Jordan, who was phenomenal in being able to build relationships and make it tangible for young people who didn't see mindfulness as this hokey thing that only some of our white brethren use, but that this was actually something that carried a sense of centering, that they could connect to something that was greater than themselves in their own village. And so I appreciated you making the time. I'm glad that we connected, but I also now see how impactful that it has been in my life, and also for the young people who share with me, Mr. Martin, I still have my mindfulness card that we created. And now they're teenagers in school, and they still have the practices, or they still look at the videos that well, actually a few of our students have created, and it's so powerful. And so I'm curious, as I know you just came back from international trip, and I know you've doing some work in New Mexico as well. But I'm curious, in today's times, how are people really activating some of the work that you are leading in regards to mindfulness and racial justice and more?
Thank you, Craig. And first, thank you for taking that leap of faith many, many years ago, that began in a coffee shop and conversation. But you, as a school leader, entrusted me with your beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scholars. And, our partnership really began through trust and a leap of faith, right? Willing to kind of do something different, a willingness to be open to try something different. And through that, began an incredible partnership, amazing relationships that have multiplied, and these amazing scholars who were natural leaders, leaders in their own right, leaders in their own lives, have navigated a lot of challenges, but found this remarkable way through safe and trusted in the classroom with Mr. J, right? Mindfulness through music, mindfulness through movement, mindfulness through all the different ways that we express ourselves. And they were amazing innovators themselves, right? I mean, they were designing practices and breath practices, the dinosaur breath, the bumblebee breath. I mean, it was just, the innovation was incredible, right? Because we know, even from a neuroscientific capacity, that when we feel safe and we engage in mindfulness practice on a regular and devoted basis, we ignite the facets of our brain that ignite both innovation and creativity, and of course, emotional regulation, right? The ability to experience true and authentic joy. And yet we experience, all of us collectively, our little ones, our scholars, our students, each of us, our families, our loved ones, experience wounds and traumas of this world, right? That we are carrying, that we are continuing to navigate even here as caregivers and adults. And so now more than ever, there is an urgent need to rely on mindfulness as a source of collective activism. And so, particularly in this moment of advancing social justice and collective care, mindfulness alone, oftentimes, and I think the Western sort of understanding of mindfulness is, or when you think of meditation practice, people have an image in their mind of what that looks like. And I really believe that mindfulness is entirely embedded in activism and advocacy. It is not just being seated on a comfortable cushion, breathing in and out. It is the power in pause that allows you to ignite and exercise equity and action in all the ways that are constructive to hold and actually bear the responsibility that we all have in making the world a better place than we found it. And that's something that I believe our young people are passionate about, and that we have to arrive and to invest in our own individual well-being so we can arrive and hold our classrooms with sincere care. And so we can also be activists and advocates, as well as encourage and raise our young minds as well. I think this is to simply teach or practice mindfulness is a disservice to the practice, right? I mean, it is not what mindfulness is meant to be. We are, we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors that have been and sacrificed greatly for us to be here, for us to have access to education, for us to be in education. And we are in many ways serving as models and seeking to multiply those models. And so it is with a lot of sincerity and deep, deep trust with community that we seek to both reimagine the system and also deeply work towards redesigning systems that were not designed with us in mind.
You ever have those moments where you have these new ahas and your whole body's just like, boom, like I'm having all of these new awarenesses, listening and internalizing what you're sharing. And I'll fully admit, years ago before COVID, if somebody said mindfulness or meditation, I was one of those people who kind of poo-pooed it. I'm like, yeah, I can't shut my brain down. Not going to happen. And I did pieces of meditation, but never the mindfulness that you're talking about. And for the first time, I realized that in sharing with you, the first question I asked was around mindfulness as part of self-awareness. And that was the first time I've ever seen it as part of self-awareness and not part of self-management as a regulation tool. And so I'm really inspired hearing you talk about how deeply it's intertwined with culture. And it's in those micro moments that, and I think those were the words that you were talking about, as a way to be able to center and continue forward. And so I just need to thank you, because I'm having this like deep aha realization that I want to continue learning and growing in that direction you have just shared. And I wonder if you could share an example of how the mindfulness for you has been a catalyst for activism. Like, what has that looked like in your life? And I love this idea of the innovation. I didn't want to skip over that either with the kids, because how amazing is it that you get to design something that works for you instead of somebody else telling you this is what you can do. And so I just wanted to put that note out there. But what you're sharing about using it as a tool for activism and relating it to culture, I'd love to learn more about what that looks like for you in your life and your experiences.
Thank you. So for me, it's really about committing and recommitting to my own healing, investing into rest as a form of resistance. So rest as resistance. It's really about simplifying my life so I don't feel so stretched with all that we juggle and carry and all that we want to say yes to. I have gotten really good of only saying yes to things that are entirely values aligned with what brings me joy and meaning, and is aligned with the values that I want to uplift in my life and in community. So I no longer feel obligated to say yes. And, being raised in collectivist culture, part of my practice was like, I don't want to feel guilty when I say no. How do I navigate the guilt? I was raised both Indian and Catholic. And so we are the masters of guilt. But part of my practice was also like, how do I arrive both as a mother of six, as a daughter, to my, amazing beloved parents, as a sister to my wonderful brothers, as a wife to my darling husband, and to the founder of Ivy Child. And how do I continue to arrive in these roles with grace and ease and facilitate it with authenticity, right? But also creating space and knowing that anger and rage and pain and tears, all of that has currency. And so being able to prioritize my own healing, the healing of those that I care for, creating space, literally in the day, not having, but being bombarded from meeting to meeting and commitment to commitment, both for myself as well as for those that I care for, like in my intimate life with my family, right? My kid doesn't need to be a master of everything, right? They don't need to be perfect, right? I don't need to be perfect, but can I give myself that grace? And can I allow and give myself the permission to be human and also hold that space for those that we love? So it is, I guess, committing and recommitting to our own humanity in the process of this, journey of life, and continuing to learn, and continuing to also be humbled.
Thank you very much.
I was so interestingly enough, Rose introduced me to Mina, Mina uh, who was our one of our previous guests. So we're excited that she, and uh, you both have really, created such an loving ecosystem for me to continue to power through a host of emotions and transitions, and you've helped me to develop some tools that I'm hoping are showing up really well out here in these streets. Um, and so Mina talks about tenderness, and I feel like at this time it is a radical idea to embrace tenderness in a environment that can feel toxic, that can feel very pained, and there is a lot of anger because we still have a war that's going on, across the ocean, and multiple wars. So I'm not losing sight that the war in Gaza is not the only war that is actually happening at this time. And we know that there's hunger, and folks can't afford to live in their houses, and people are working there's a host of things. But one of the interesting things that I thought about with what Mina talks about in regards to tenderness, and I also think about this conversation that Kimberly Drew, an author, has been talking about with soft life. And I know that some folks are talking about, well, what are the small things you can do to either embrace tenderness, or for the contemporary people talking about soft life, and just those small moments to steal away and give yourself small luxuries of life. That could be a bubble bath, it could be you have your favorite candle on, it could be that you're taking a walk and you're enjoying the wind along the nape of your neck. But I am curious, you know do how does tenderness situate itself in your own life, as a mom and as a businesswoman, a woman of color, and many more identities, uh, and in the midst of all the things that we are seeing going on?
Mhm. I love Mina, and I love that she has really highlighted this need for all of us to create space
Mhm.
and find our spaces where we feel safe enough to experience tenderness.
Mhm.
Because we can't experience tenderness if we don't feel safe, right?
Yes.
And part of, from my own experience, becoming a mother again in my now 40s, and creating the space to experience and lean into the joys in which tenderness can nourish our souls. Those moments with my babies, those moments where we can dance, the moments where we can sing, the moments where we can come together with care and affection in all the ways that are meaningful to us, right? Because when we are running and doing and going and moving, it is sometimes challenging to create spaces for tenderness. We are often exhausted. We are operating from a place of complete and utter exhaustion and depletion, where we can't even experience the tenderness or the tender moments that we can share on our own with our loved ones, whether it be moments in a meal. My 4-year-old Adia has this beautiful, it's like a mini prayer that we share before every meal. And I love that we hold space for this. And it's so simple. And what she says is, thank you, love you, bless you.
Hmm.
And it is this sweet and sacred moment that we share before our meal together each and every day. And we hold hands as we do it. But this moment of dear tenderness, to just take a moment to exercise gratitude, to express our love, and to express and share our blessings. I think if we were to collectively as communities come together to do just that, imagine our world in the midst of so much suffering, right? That we know the wars of what is going on across the world, but the wars even in our own minds and own homes, and so the more we can give ourselves the grace and the space to just be, so we can actually have the opportunity to experience that sweet tenderness, can be nourishing, transformative. It can be the soulful food that we all need to continue to carry on. And March, as my dear brother Craig says, I love that practice. March.
Yes, I will be. It will be March. But thank you for that. Uh, I am what is surfacing for me as I really think about your 4-year-old dear heart who centers the entire family unit. Just in saying, love me, love you. Oh, my goodness. And one of the things both you and Mina say that makes me feel seen is when you call me dear heart. Because I love hearing Craig, but when you say dear heart, I feel like you see me and you see my intention. And I think that some of this work that we're trying to do, whether or not it is, it's not, it's a both fan. SEL and mindfulness is a collection of interesting, integrated weaving and fabric to the human soul and spirit, but to be seen. And then have the space to not only be seen, but allow yourself to flourish or to sit in question or curiosity or silence and know that all of that is going to really help you to heal and refocus Um, thank you. Thank you. It's got me thinking about some things, even a conversation I had with the hubby yesterday about the fact that in our lives, with the busyness of things that we're both trying to do things that is right for whoever we're serving, and we're depleting ourselves in order to restore others.
Mm-hmm.
And having a conversation to steal back and say, hey, well, how do we prioritize time and presence among ourselves so that we continue to thrive and flourish as individuals, but also collectively as a couple, and that it required one or both of us to come to the reality that we are coming home exhausted from doing all the things with great intention, and then not necessarily knowing how to make that space for ourselves. But I think that incorporating a number of the practices that you've talked about today, and anybody who has seen any of your incredible work in the ether will know that calling yourself home
Mm.
tenderly
Mm.
as a dear heart is a very powerful thing.
And I find myself to be so fortunate to be able to soak in all of your sunshine throughout these many, many years, to uplift, to inspire, to embrace. If you haven't experienced the magical embrace of dear beloved Craig.
I do, I give decent hugs.
You get amazing.
I was needing to jump in here. Like, you give amazing hugs. It doesn't hurt that he's like 6'10" either. like
Hey.
Yeah, we are fortunate to be part of your world, and we are so fortunate to be to soak in your sunshine. It is such a gift. It is such a gift. And the more we can actually create time and space to connect with those that uplift uplift us, and that we can experience joy from and through, and also be vulnerable and really acknowledging that, we as healers and teachers and, family members, need to invest into our own healing in order so we can give. So we know that we can't give from an empty cup.
Mm.
We need to be able to nourish ourselves so we can continue to give all that we give to those around us. And so what are those moments? And so for me, I often share about how, being able, I often feel responsible for multiple generations, aging parents, little ones, teenagers, fur babies, all of it, right? So it's just,
Yes.
yeah. And, I had a dear mentor who would say, like, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right? But really, how do we navigate all of those different roles and responsibilities with grace and ease? And so, and I would often hear of my colleagues in mindfulness going for like a month-long mindfulness retreat. And I'm thinking, as like, queen caregiver, I could never go on a 1 month mindfulness retreat. I got babies, I got hubby, I got the elders, I got the fur babies. So how do I take moments, these micro moments, to retreat and to recharge myself on a daily basis? It is those moments braided throughout my day that give me the ability to advocate and to activate and to show up and to elevate my voice and to speak my truth. Because if I don't, I'm too exhausted to do anything.
if it makes you feel any better, there's solid research. I can't remember the researcher though, that shows that having those micro moments every day is actually more impactful than taking a week off of vacation and coming back. So just if that helps ease your brain a little bit, that there's solid evidence to show that your philosophy and your way of engaging in the mindfulness is what is most sustainable and most impactful in the long run. Not that you need
one of
you know this. I'm just saying this for our listeners out there. It doesn't need to
Oh,
be
absolutely.
a month off, but it's
No.
pausing. You were talking about the power of the pause and finding those little, not letting those little moments go away. And I say this as a mom of, my bonus son is 18 today. And my oldest
Oh,
is 22,
hey.
my other is 19. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, we got them all to adulthood in one piece. And, you know, and my family was joking with me. I had a couple other things to say that I was setting the bar low. But I think back and like, it's those little moments, even when they were teenagers, of like saying goodnight to them and I love you, and waking them up in the morning. And I know that there was a phone that could do it. They had their phones, they could set their own alarm, and I wasn't taking the place of their alarm, or but I wanted those special moments where they knew, you know, I saw you first thing. I'm happy to see you this morning. Good night. I hope you rest well. And I love that you're having this opportunity to really embrace those moments again and see them through the eyes of a young one. Because I think back in my 20s when I had my kids when they were little, and I'm not sure, I probably had the energy, but not the patience. And now that I'm older, I have the patience and not the energy.
And so, but how do we navigate that, right? So like for me, I often think about both the micro, meso, and the macro, right? And how do we both commit and be intentional to, you know, lean into those moments throughout the day as we can, right? It's that, you know, trusted individual that we can be tender with, that we can have a phone call or a conversation that we will make time and space for in our day. It is the moment to kind of get outside and breathe fresh air. It's those moments, those micro moments. But then also, how do I commit to a good night's rest? You know, that's those meso opportunities. And then the macro being, how do I be intentional about devoting greater chunks of time to my own individual well-being as well as that as my family? How do we, you know, break out of the daily race and hustle of everything that we do and actually soak in nature, or go to the beach and listen to the ocean, or get, you know, jump in the water or dance? You know, how do we kind of, you know, be intentional about those opportunities from a micro, meso, and macro level as well?
And empower our young 4-year-old to set the tone for a community family meal together and raise up their voice. That's amazing.
And have the elders and the teenagers listen as she speaks, right? Because no one, the way, the receptivity and the response and the engagement she holds as a 4-year-old is not something that I am able to do. So no, it's a beautiful, beautiful experience to witness that and experience that for sure.
So I get to ask this magical question. uh, and so we ask our guests, season 3, you know, what do you believe is your superpower at this time?
My superpower. Um, my superpower is held, um, I think, with my deep capacity to love and to anchor myself in faith. um, so I can recommit to both loving myself and the deep capacity to love and care for those I commit to. So I think it's sort of multiple spheres in terms of, I think, like interconnected powers. But it's something that, you know, I feel really, really blessed and fortunate that I had parents who had a tremendous capacity to love my brothers and myself. And I feel like we have a huge family. My mom is the oldest of 12 and one of 31st cousins. And our home was really a haven. And that home was extended to dear friends that became soul family. So I think having that capacity to open our arms and to extend ourselves in love is something that I want to continue to teach and share with my own children and to exercise with the children that we devote our lives to.
Thank you. How do people get in touch or stay in touch? Well, yes, get in touch with you if this is their entry to you. But yeah, if they want to learn more, they want to connect with you, they want to know more about Ivy Child International. I'm like, they should. And you're booked, I know, but if they can eke in an opportunity to engage with you, how would they do that?
Please, feel free to find us. Our website is ivychild.org. My social name is Rosefulness. So if you think of mindfulness, but my name is Rose, so it's Rosefulness on all the channels. So Instagram, all the places, including LinkedIn. So yeah, no, please don't hesitate to reach out and connect. I think that our world is greater and richer because of really wonderful connections that we all make. And we are all here today because of the amazing bond and connections that we have created. So always open to connect with wonderful people. So find me in our deep digital connection that we all have. So welcome that for sure.
And I just want to let people know as well to make sure you go to the show notes, because we are going to be linking to the meditations that Rose has available and all of the websites. So please make sure that I know you've loved this episode, listeners. So now go on, take a look at the links that are there, follow and connect with Rose, and put some of these practices. Try out some of these practices. I'll be on that journey with you.
Yeah. So SEL and EDU family, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor to have Rose here with us. I think your heart will be greater just by one, we're here in this conversation, but two, you have an opportunity to experience something that may change your life and change the lives of many generations by learning and leaning into what Rose has to offer, as well as all the great offerings of the Ivy Child International family. And I say that from lived experience. So I am not saying that because this is a sponsored video, because it'd be great to have sponsors, but this is just powered by ResEd and the love we have. So, SEL and EDU family, until we return again, we want you to hold you and all those you care about real tight. And we look forward to journeying with you in this SEL and EDU life. We love you. Take care.